values and what's selling and not selling as far as rural real estate is concerned?
Interesting times, Rob, at the moment. In terms of what's been happening over the last 12 months, there's been a bit of movement in the various sectors. We're seeing a little bit more action in the dairy sector now. I think a lot of people have been sitting waiting to pounce on better properties when they've come up. They've been sitting there, and we of course had the prices which has affected buying and selling and people's budgets and banks and all that sort of stuff. But I think we're seeing some positive action happening in that department at the moment. Over the last 12 months though, the mean dairy price has changed 42% from January 16 to January 17, so that's quite a jump.
42%?
Yeah,
Is that up or down?
Up 42%, yeah. Whew. So there's something happening.
There's a lot happening.
Yeah, there is, that's right. In terms of the wine industry, which is one I'm pretty much focused in as well, there's a lot of interest out there at the moment. I'm finding certainly in Waipara in particular, and it's not the biggest area in New Zealand, wine industry, Marlborough obviously is, but there's action in Marlborough as well, with the bigger guys looking to tie up land and secure their production of Sauvignon Blanc. The industry's in good shape. Obviously looking for a good vintage, good weather, all that sort of carry on, but still things are happening. Not quite so many sales, but there's definitely action happening and quite a bit of interest.
There's a fair bit of corporate, isn't there, with the wine industry?
Yeah, there is a lot of corporate, but there's also lately I've had a lot of inquiry from US people. Since Trump's been elected, there are people looking to come to New Zealand.
Oh, really?
And the other thing that I'm seeing is that there are a lot of younger people entering in. There are people retiring from the industry, and we're getting younger people onto the properties to take them the next step. So that's good.
So what they're doing is they're buying an already up and running, and then giving it quantum boof.
That's right. Yeah, some of them might have been just idling, or some of them, the odd one might have had a few bit of pressure, as happens from time to time, but most of them are bona fide sales or people that are interested to move in. And there's also an interest from investors from Christchurch looking to have that piece of land or that vineyard or whatever, but the numbers have to work.
I understand from people that there's a lot of corporate things, or people buying as an investor and somebody else running the vineyard.
Yeah, there is a bit of that, not a huge amount. That was in fashion a few years ago. A lot of ventures were set up along those lines, but it's more either the corporates that are the big corporates operating in the wine industry, or people looking to set up ventures. Maybe there are 2 or 3 investors, but basically to run it on a business-like basis.
Small blocks, the big focus.
Well, interestingly, the lifestyle market at the moment is at the lowest. There's a headline out from the REINZ, which is lifestyle block market is challenging as sales decline to the lowest level in 2 years. Having said that, the prime properties are still in demand, and lifestyle properties do transfer. That just happens. But I think at the moment the LVR ratios are also impacting on some of the lifestyle transactions for people getting in for the first time or that sort of thing. So it's eased.
How important is presentation when you're selling a property?
Critical, absolutely critical. If you're selling your car, you don't leave it all dusty and dirty and inside and outside, so you polish it up. Same for property, exactly. It's got to be presented well. If someone walks onto, especially a rural property that's in production, if it's looking good and it's being maintained well, then it's going to be attractive to buyers. Present well, you're going to get a better price.
Like, mowing the roadside and that sort of thing.
It may seem like titivation, but it does work.
Now, setting a value, because you've got rateable values, and I would suggest that some people think that that's the law.
Yes, well, rateable values come out automatically, don't they? And they're there and you can look at them. But you've got to remember that's what they're done for. They're done for rates purposes. I can take you to sales we've seen where it can be twice the rateable value and others at half the rateable value. So they're dangerous guides, put it that way. People tend to interpret trends and compare properties on rateable value ratios. Sometimes that can be of a little bit of assistance to get a general feel, but you can't be going to the property and assessing it on its merits. And what we have to do is complete a comparable market analysis, that is analysing the sales that have occurred and relate it to the property that we're listing.
I was going to ask you, how do you guys actually get to a figure for a client?
Well, yes, that's what we do, and we adopt a pretty thorough process, and it's along the lines of a valuation, but of course a registered valuer will come in and value as at today, whereas we tend to put a range which we think it will work in, because different buyers will pitch at different levels. And there can be a fast track sale price and a slower track sale price. So there's usually two figures.
Now, the other thing I want to talk to you about is planning ahead, because my understanding is that somebody who wants to sell should get involved with their accountant and their solicitor and their farm advisors, as well as their real estate agent, round the table.
Absolutely. It's the old story that the more you plan and think about it and involve people with you on the journey, then it's going to be a better outcome.
Because you're talking about tax situations and such like, aren't you?
You can be, yes. I mean, most of our rural sales are zero rated for GST, because the vendor and the purchaser are both registered for GST. That's pretty straightforward. But of course, lifestyle blocks aren't. But then you get the odd time where vendors are registered for GST and purchasers aren't. You need to have that very clearly worked out.
How do you handle? I mean, you're the you're the person who's liaising and sorting all that stuff out.
Yeah, you do. Well, basically, the person who's registered when they're selling a lifestyle block is going to have to pay GST on the portion of the sale that isn't residential. There's no GST on anything residential. So on any piece of land, there's a house and a section and so on. If it's a bigger lifestyle block, then there'll be an area of land that's deemed to be productive land, and that's what GST would be paid on. Often it's a small amount, but of course if you get a bigger property, it can be a bigger amount.
Now, the other thing is that you guys have become very, very professional. I mean, in the old days, anyone out of work turned to real estate and life insurance sales. But that's no longer the case, Andy.
No, it's not. There's rigorous training to get your license for a start. There's regular professional development programs that you must attend annually, and the integrity side of the industry. I actually come from a valuation background, and when I did my ticket or got my registration as a sales consultant, I was very impressed with the number of units that were involved with the integrity of it. And the Real Estate Agents Act 2008 has really stepped up that integrity side of things, which is very good.
Well, it needs to be done, because I mean, if you don't do things properly, there's ramifications down the track.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, in a summary, the market is looking okay.
The market's looking okay. People always want to buy and sell, and we're there to help. But yeah, you just get trends, and interest rates are still reasonably attractive. So you know, in terms of borrowing for ventures, it's still on. But yep, it comes back to what you said before: planning, doing it thoroughly, and doing it well is important.
And getting professional advice. I mean, you as a real estate person probably does need to talk to an accountant that's involved with the transaction.
Usually we do, certainly the lawyers, and often the accountants are involved, yes.
Which is great, all the professionals all in one room.
Absolutely. No,
Andy,
it's all
thank
good.
you very much indeed.